So, in this video we are going to talk about a new rule. This rule is going to tell you how to take the derivative of two functions composed with each other. It's a rule that you will be using for the rest of the semester, and so it's very important. It's called the chain rule, and it tells you how to take the derivative of f circle g. Remember, that's composition of functions. And what does it mean for g to be composed with f or f to be composed with g? Well, the way I have it written here, it means that you take x, you plug it into g, and then you take whatever that gives you and you plug it into f. So all you're doing is plugging one function into another, in this case g into f. The chain rule tells you how you're going to take the derivative of a function that looks like that. Okay? And the naive thing to guess, all right, one initial guess could be of what the formula is, right, is you take the derivative of f and you take the derivative of g, and then you just, put circle in between. You compose the two derivatives. And that's not a bad guess because, when you add two functions or when you subtract two functions, all you do is take the derivative of each of them separately and then add and subtract them together afterwards. Well, guess what? This is definitely not the case, as you can probably guess. And the real thing is the following. What you do is you take the derivative of f, that's for sure. You're also going to take the derivative of g. Yep, that's going to be there. Except look what happens. Inside the derivative of f, you plug in g. And then what you do is you multiply that by the derivative of g. Okay, so that is what's going on. You take the derivative of f and you plug g in. Then you multiply by the derivative of g. So the chain that's going on here is right here. Right after you take the derivative of f, you take the derivative of g. Okay? But then you have to plug g into f, into the derivative of f. Anyway, so as not to confuse you anymore, let me try writing this in words. So when you take the derivative, let's view this as a sequence of steps. Okay? So take the derivative of f first. That's the first step. The second step is plug in g. So that's the second step. And the third step is to take the derivative of g. Okay, and that's all. So just to write that out in words, we have that the first thing you do is you take the derivative of f. The second thing you do is you plug in g of x to f prime. In other words, the derivative of f. And the third thing is you just take the derivative of g. Okay? So this might all seem a little confusing for now, but let's do a bunch of examples and that'll help you understand it more. That's just the way it works. All right, so here we go. Here's the first example. You want the derivative of x plus x squared cubed. And you go, well, I could have done that before I saw this video. I could just multiply that out and then I'll take the derivative of whatever I get after I multiplied it out, right? Because it's just going to be a bunch of power functions added together and I'll use power rule. No big deal. Okay, so let me fix that up for you. There you go, 300. So now you're not going to want to multiply that out anymore. So let's take the derivative of x plus x squared raised to the power 300. The chain rule allows you to take the derivative, shows you how to take the derivative of two functions getting composed with each other. So what's getting composed here? So we have to identify the outer function and the inner function. Remember, this is what we call the outer function, that f, and the inner function is that g. Okay, so let's identify those two and then we'll apply the formula. So the outer function looks like, so what do we have to do here? We have to find out what's getting plugged into what. It looks like I'm taking x plus x squared and plugging that into x to the power 300. So the thing I'm plugging in, that's my inner function, that's x plus x squared. The outer function is the thing I'm plugging into, so that should be x to the power 300. According to the power rule, I'm going to need to know the derivative of both of these things. That's pretty easy. According to the chain rule, I'm going to need to know the derivative of both of these things, and I'm just going to use the power rule. So 300 x to the 299, and then the derivative of g is g prime, which is equal to 1 plus 2x. All right, that was easy. But the chain rule says you're going to have to do these things, put them together in a certain way. So according to the chain rule, this is going to be f prime with g plugged in, right? Times g prime of x. So how is this going to go? I'm going to have 300 to the 299 power, and I'm going to plug g of x in. What is that? That's x plus x squared. So x plus x squared. There you go. And then you finally multiply by g prime of x, which is simply 1 plus 2x. All right, and there you have it. That's what the derivative of x plus x squared raised to the 300 is going to be. Let's do another example, but let's do it a little bit more fluidly without, all the inner function, outer function stuff. So we have 3 to the x plus x squared, right? Well, let's just do this. The derivative of that is going to be the derivative of this exponential function, right? That's just going to be itself times ln 3. That's just what the derivative of an exponential function is. But because you plugged something in that's not just x, it's an entire function, you're going to have to chain that, in other words, take the derivative of it. So you multiply by 1 plus 2x. Okay, so see, it's not so bad. It's just sort of the derivative of the thing you see, the thing you think it should be, and then you have an extra step, which is the chain. Okay. All right. So just to be sure, let's now identify what the outer and inner function was. The outer function, of course, was 3 to the power x. That's an exponential function. And the inner function was x plus x squared. Why? Because x plus x squared is getting plugged into the 3 to the power x, that function. All right, so according to the power rule, this is how it's going to go. This first part here is f prime with g of x plugged in. And this second part here is just g prime. All right, one last example, ln of x plus x squared. How's this going to go? Well, the outer function, it looks like it's just ln x, and I'm plugging x plus x squared into it. So the derivative of this is going to be the derivative of log, which is 1 over whatever's inside. All right? And then I have to do the chain. So I multiply the thing I plugged in, which is just x plus x squared, so the derivative of that is 1 plus 2x. That's it. Done. That is the chain rule. So again, just to be clear, the outer function f of x was ln x, and the inner function was x plus x squared. We'll be doing a bunch of more examples in the subsequent videos, so stay tuned. But if you didn't get it now, yeah, as I said, stay tuned.